Hello, this is On the Fence with Albert.
Kelly.
And I don't know if we really even have that much of a topic today. We're just sort of going to get into a variety of things. I guess a little bit of hope, a little bit of conspiracy, a little bit of religion, just sort of attacking
The elephant in the room, I
yeah,
guess,
the
where we
elephant in the
can all,
world.
yeah, the comparison game of the parallels in the scriptures and possible like mythological stuff and Masonic stuff and Illuminati and
Yeah.
what God was, where God has placed Himself in it all, or where God has started it all, or what have you.
So to just start, I guess uh, I just want to point out that it's just not going to be a normal year. This is things are just going to continue to escalate, and if you haven't sort of like if that hasn't slapped you in the face yet, then I guess get ready because whatever happens, something's going to happen that's great enough for you to sort of be like, oh yeah, this is not going well. I mean, we have a slew of more executive orders from supposedly the president in the first couple weeks here than we've seen ever in the history of our country.
More dictatorship than I've ever seen, even if you want to compare with Trump.
And then I mean, on a global scale, we have Poland and Austria fighting big tech and basically supporting free speech and saying they don't even have the right to do that. We have China moving warships around, specifically messing with another world power. They're in sort of Russia's realm, and Biden has said that he supports Russia. But if nobody doesn't realize that China is also basically his handler, then
Then
uh,
it's all just a big scheme anyway.
yeah, I mean, at this point, you have to look at it and be like, well, so which side would we be on? So if China messes with Russia, we're saying we're on both sides. Are we going to do that again, where we sort of like, I don't know, like we're gonna fight a war against ourselves, basically? Like, okay,
Yeah,
we're
well, there's succession where Texas is concerned, and was like, well, if Texas succeeds from the Union, then they're basically a death sentence right there for themselves.
yeah,
But I mean, I guess it is
yeah,
either way in a sense. But
and they have a lot of military there and a lot of police force, but they don't have enough of it to sort of like stand alone. Not in the world that we have right
I
now.
mean, they're
So
probably counting a few other things like their armed populace and that. But I mean, one
yeah,
one
but
bomb would take care of all that.
yeah, it's just geographically, it's not a
Yeah.
big enough area for them to. I don't know, there's just nowhere to hide unless
Hmm.
they've built a bunker half the size of the state underneath it. They're sort of screwed if they do
Yeah.
that. And I get where they're coming from. I mean, like I understand why. It's one of those things that just doesn't
And
really
yeah.
seem logical or possible.
No, they're leading the fight in like the law in the courts. Not that the courts really make any difference right now, but like suing Biden for his executive orders, and like I would imagine half the union is with that, trying to like go and allege like wrongdoing and the laws that they're trying to push. And
I
have you
have
guys ever seen like the laws that they're trying to push for like the the weapons that they're trying to get everyone
Domestic
to register?
Terrorism
Yeah,
Act.
that and
Basically, to me, that's just it's
like
the Patriot Act ramped up.
mm, yeah,
It's
yeah,
an invasion of personal freedoms under the guise of national freedom, ramped up to a level that is
yeah,
not going to be recoverable.
yeah. So I mean, if you have any kind of sense of what's going on there, it's not good. But I guess we're gonna name this a new hope because we're we're trying to lean away from the issues of what's gonna wrap our heads around some negative stuff and go after what the end game is. And there's only one way to go about that, I guess.
And it may involve more pain. It may involve more death. It may involve more tribulation. As I sort of feel like I don't know. I feel obligated to call it. And there's a lot of people that have said that we've been in the Bible's version of tribulation for some time now, but I think we're really getting into the heart of it now. And if you don't see what's happening in the world as the as tribulation of humans, then I'm not sure what it takes. I guess. I mean, we have plagues. We're on the verge of war. Everybody's fighting. There's no unity, no human compassion, none of that left. So this seems to be it. Um, but it's just sort of at a point where I feel like that has to come to a head. There's no going down the path that we're at. with the soldiers surrounding our capital. Now they're building some giant concrete structure out front that appears to be some sort of like guard tower, or
Yeah,
I don't even
I
know
feel like
what.
yeah they started that like before the inauguration. I feel like, and I don't know, I don't live there, so I don't know how long it's been there, but there was a lot of buzz about how they just all of a sudden there was this big structure.
And to put that under the guise of this the January 6th event is just insanity. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about like some even if you look at it in the worst sense, the worst narrative that the media portrayed, they took like the podium, Pelosi's laptop, and broke a window. The one person got shot. So we took that one person that got shot and we have militarized our nation and are building permanent war type structures out in front of our capital that just like it's not that's not the proper reaction. It's too far, and at this point we are uh, to the rest of the world. Even if you want to say it, you don't see it that way in this country. To the rest of the world, we're a military state basically at this point, and nothing's really being done about it. So to say, I guess that this is just another year and they're just laws and everything will continue to go about the way it is, I think is pretty ignorant at this point. It's clearly this is going to come to a head. The tension is increasing. It's not decreasing, and it's increasing faster and faster. So
Yeah.
no
So
matter which way you look at it, something's gonna break.
yep, there's a scripture that actually correlates with that. Basically, like birth pains in the world will continue to be more and more intense with the coming of like a resolution, call it, and that's like the hope that Christians have, I guess. It's basically spelled out as an end time judgment, but like basically it's not going to be made to like destroy the world. This culmination is not going to be let happen in its fulfillment of like the destruction or like an atomic war. Like there's going to be a step in at some point, and however God decides to put that into play is on him. But the fact that God is the one that has placed all this in motion in a sense, um, and that he's given us a hope in the Bible. I guess is the whole point. He's not going to let that all slide away. And his creation is supposed to last forever. Like we all have eternal souls in that way. So like we're not all just gonna perish. It's not. He doesn't wish that. And so there's a big play out going on, and it's really just a big show.
On that, I would say that I agree and say that not all, but there may be several million that die.
Hmm.
At least the way that's written and the way things are looking. That's not to say that we're all going to be fine and there won't be nuclear war or something, but I think that at least a portion, hopefully, it's the same portion of wise that are in the Bible that survive, because there's no real telling what's going down. But I think part of tribulation is going to be the loss of some lives, because I think unfortunately it's going to take some loss of lives for people to finish waking up, I guess we'll call it. I really hate using that because the liberal media has ruined the word woke. It's just like a toxic, ignorant term at this point. So I don't know. Maybe we'll call it. I like the Matrix. The Matrix makes me the red pill, blue pill idea
Yeah.
is it's I don't know. It sits better with me vocabulary wise.
Yeah. Once a phrase gets popular in like a major part of the population, then the media decides to take it and use it as like a a tool unto themselves.
And as far as the apocalypse idea goes, there's like a point, there's a give and a take to that, because we have to consider that almost every generation for the past 3 or 4 has tried to say that the apocalypse was in their generation. Like we've had apocalypse scares every year for the last
It's
100,
2000,
and
at
yeah,
least
at
in
least
30 years,
2000.
20
And
years.
I mean, even before that, like look at the 70s and stuff, then and the prohibition before that, and the I mean, then World War II. I mean, for God's sakes, we thought Hitler was the Antichrist, and I mean the the idea of it being the end of days has been around and something that we've sort of beat into the ground to a point where at this point you're like, well, I mean, yeah, it sort of looks that way, but
It's been like that for 1,000 years.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, this one does seem to be a little bit more extreme. I just actually saw something yesterday that really made me laugh because it was a documentary about swine flu, and they were talking about how H1N1, and they were saying that this could be the plague that ends the world, and everybody was wearing masks. And the funny thing about H1N1 was the death rate was insane, and people were scared. I mean, like you almost had like the same chance that you have of living from corona, you had the same chance of dying from H1N1. Like basically, if you got it, you were fucked.
Hmm.
And they thought that was the end. So it's amusing to me, I guess, that everybody thought that by the end of 2012 we were going to have lost like 60% of our population or something. They thought we were just done for. And then we get this virus a couple years later that's basically pathetic in comparison. And here we are freaking out about it. And it's sort of strange to me that there's more people claiming that this is the plague. This is the plague that ends the earth. And
Yeah, it has to do with who they're trying to protect and who they're
yeah,
trying to, um, you know, make the enemy, I guess, too.
and
So,
it makes me think back to the actual plague, the Black Plague. And I understand that technology was different, but I mean, even in just the history that has survived, you see people being carted around the streets, these piles of bodies, burning bodies in pits. Like you
hmm,
see this mass destruction on a civilian scale, but yet where is like the homeless people are still on the side of the highway. So like if
yeah,
it's so scary
yeah.
and this virus is so scary and
The people
airborne,
that wouldn't have any protection would be gone.
yeah, they'd be gone. But you don't see that when, like, I don't. Has anybody seen bodies laying on the side of the road? We've seen streetcars picking up the bodies. No, because it doesn't exist. So where are these millions of deaths that are from that, or are those mostly deaths that were going to happen anyways, and from more or less natural causes that we've now just labeled as that? So there comes a point when you have to consider that things may seem apocalyptic because that's what you're being told, not because that's what's happening. However, I also see the correlation in Revelations of the horses, as I was telling you earlier, where
Yeah.
it's we start with this white horse, and then we have this building called the White House that's quite similar. And in the Bible, this white horse, it sets out to conquer and goes on conquering. The Bible says so. We have this White House, this corporation of America that really has flourished over the last say 100 years or so. And that what have they done? I mean, we have militarily occupied so many countries, and we're
Hmm.
doing it on the grounds of peace, we're doing it on the grounds of good, but yet we're using force. So how could peace possibly be achieved through force by us occupying all of these nations with our militaries? And I understand that the intentions are good, but as you said to me, the path to hell, the road to hell is often paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
And in the Bible, this, the Antichrist, he works under the guise of doing good, and he imitates God, but at the same time, the results of his actions end up being poor. So I mean, there's a lot of similarities there between what the corporate America that is the White House, this machine that we have created, what it's doing, um, and then we have following the white horse, the second horse, the red horse, and we have China in that red flag, and the red horse is the taker of peace, the destroyer of peace. And if you want to tell me there's anything China has done in the last 10 years that's not destroying peace in the world, then please lay it out for me, because they have like they're literally right now sending warships.
Yeah.
They are the destroyer of peace, and the red horse is followed by a black horse that basically is
The horse of death.
no,
Is
that's
it?
the pale, that's
Is
the
it the
final.
pale?
The black horse is controlling through money. They talk about scales and
Okay.
the coin. So if and then we look at these stock market things, and sort of like the Rockefeller family, and the fact that we all use this paper dollar that's worth nothing, and we have the central bank, and yes, that's the central bank in America, but that central bank in America is basically has a grasp on every economy in the world.
Yeah,
Like,
it's connected to it, and they're all trying to keep connecting it. That's why I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that
yeah,
the big push for crypto, I think, is actually in the background of like trying to connect every economy,
yeah.
but in like an instantaneous sort of way, instead of like, oh, it takes 3 months to close on a
But those
house.
those same financial people are the same ones that are funding the things
Yeah,
that control all of it. The
right,
Amazon, the
right,
big
right.
tech. So big tech is almost like in my eyes, like associated with the black horse
Mhm.
because we America created the internet
Right.
basically, and the whole world depends on Amazon stock and Google and Yahoo and all of these things are they like in our sense they seem like they're just American, but the rest of the world is using these same things. I mean,
Right.
Poland and Austria fighting free speech on big tech they're fighting the same companies that are here.
Mhm.
They're not they don't have their own internet and their own search engine. It's all one thing. So in that sense, they've sort of grasped hold of our finances
Yeah.
and
Well, yeah, and the fact that all the internet markets of the monetary system can like stop if they wanted to, like just stop all trading.
oh yeah. Yeah,
Like,
and it would crush every economy
yeah.
in the world. So all of these things working in unison.
Mhm.
The White House, the White Horse, the Red Horse, China, the military power with the nuclear bombs and the military force, and then this financial engine that they're all working together
Mhm.
in this trifecta. But we're waiting, in my opinion, on the pale horse, the
Mm.
death. But does it not seem like we are on the cusp of seeing the pale horse? Are we not on the cusp of nuclear war? Are we not basically? I mean, they're building camps. We are preparing for
Yeah.
mass
So
levels of death.
I guess there's a question in my mind where you can attribute a certain entity with each horse. Who is going to be the white horse? Is that
Right.
the Antichrist? Is that going to be like the that's the biblical term, of course, but is that somebody that's going to say, move in and we need these people out so that we can fully go into like where these other horses are trying to go, like trying to move away, trying to block out an obstacle, like certain people that they're trying to kill are all in the way.
Yeah.
Like I guess the religious bodies or the bodies that are trying to collapse the economy because of the knowledge they have of the other bodies that are controlling the economy. Like what's happening with GameStop. They're all trying to boost up the price because all the corporations and the economy is trying to short it, and they're just losing billions of dollars. It's all on
Yeah.
Reddit.
Yeah, like basically the other three horses are going to create the fourth, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or the need
But
for the
that
fourth.
brings me back to the fact that it's not even necessarily whether or not you believe that this prophecy is coming true or that this is divine that is that and there's that's the reason why it's happening. The fact of the matter is that like surveys say that 60% of Americans, at least I don't know about the rest of the world, but 60% of Americans believe that revelations will come true at some point, which is extremely powerful. Like they
Hmm.
in the survey they said that some of these people that agree that there will be an end of times that in
Yeah,
some way
whether it be the environment
yeah,
or
yeah, exactly.
monetary or it's, self-inflicted or whatever,
But 60% of people believe that's
there's
true.
there's an end way
It's
coming.
impossible. Is it not impossible for us to believe something that wholeheartedly as a populace and not force it to come true? Like, is there anything else that you can believe with all of your heart and not basically make it
Be a
happen?
predestination of
Yeah.
like,
Like
well,
we
it's
whether it's divine or not, we're doing it to ourselves.
yeah. I mean, there's like probably a dozen or more, but probably like two or three that I can remember. Um, basically saying it is written. If it's written, it's done. It's done.
Yeah.
It's like if it's conceived, it's done. It's like that power of the tongue. It's that if you speak it, it is real. And
Mhm.
if you can conceive it, then it's not just coming out of nowhere, guys. Like
In every
and
sense of
if
the word.
there's some kind of a mental process that brought that to you, that's not something that, like you said to whomever it was, humans aren't that creative.
it
Humans aren't that original.
it makes me think down to the basic business books I've read, the Think and Grow Rich.
Hmm.
I think Matthew Kelly, basically saying that if you believe and you tell yourself every day I'm going to be rich, it will happen.
Yeah, it's the law of attraction.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that
So if
brings
it's
us to the
written,
point
then
that
there's attraction there.
from that we can basically draw the conclusion that it's going to happen. Then we look at the time scale of everything, and that brings me to the the seven the seven seals, and to the best of my understanding, I can find pretty valid reasons why the first five seals are broke. And the sixth seal is a form of earthquake, and there's people that are,
Which are all kind of coincide with the birth pains, I'd imagine.
yeah. And but the sixth, the next step that we're
Yeah.
waiting on is some sort of an earthquake, which people are speculating to be either the asteroid impact,
A
this
shaking, yeah.
yeah, or the tectonic plates,
Hmm.
or a nuclear bomb. Because following this impact, the the Bible says that the sun will be blacked out.
Well,
Now,
yeah, and you can also correlate that with what the scientists are doing for the sun dimming technology too.
oh yeah, true.
But they might just blame that on whatever shaking. They might work hand in hand, or they might not be far enough to even do that yet.
There will be no matter which one of those
Yeah,
other things,
right.
though, there'd be a dust cloud,
Mhm.
and our atmosphere would be filled with dust, which would cause the sun to be blacked out. So,
Mhm.
like, it makes sense whether you're thinking about it in a natural occurrence or a
Right, right,
nuclear
right.
bomb or whatever. And then,
The dust cloud can be even particulates that we can't even see.
right, yeah, and I think the other verse I can't quite remember, but I want to say it says that the moon will turn red,
Mhm.
which to me screams nuclear.
Yeah.
And then we can compare all of this to hieroglyphs on the pyramids of Giza, where it would seem that they were more or less predicting some sort of the same thing, a sun blackout, some sort of apocalyptic type of deal. And although they vastly argue about the time scales of this, because then you get into like the pyramid inch, and they're doing all of this math, trying to say that math is the universal language, and I'm not even going to try to explain the in-depth retarded process they came up with this time scale, but a lot of them argue that it's all around this time period. They range from, like, they thought it was the year 2000, some of them say 2030, some of them say 2050, but it's all like right here.
Yeah.
So,
It's within our lifetime. Within
and
at least for the what the millennial standpoint
yeah, at least the predictions
is. Yeah.
say
So
that.
I mean, you kind of um, went through the seals a little bit. Do you know all the seals on top of your head, or is it something that you have to?
The other one,
Because
I
it would
do, but
probably
I
be
don't want to mess it
beneficial.
up.
Yeah, no, I could do it, but you're on a roll.
I don't want to mess it up, so I'll just find it and
Because I
read it.
think that the reference of the seals and relating that to what's going on and what's all happened is really what's the key here. And I think that a lot of people know about the seals, but people don't put time and effort into researching.
So the horses I'm referring to are the beginning of the seals. So
Okay, yeah.
I'll just read this whole little section here and stop and sort of explain what I explained. It says, "Now I watched when the Lamb opened one of the seven seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures say with a voice like thunder, 'Come.' And I looked, and behold, a white horse. Its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering and to conquer." So this is where we sort of relate the white horse to the White House that I guess I say me in my theorist crazy
Yeah.
mind, but it references a crown. And if we look at the White House building, the top of the White House appears to have, the dome looks to me like a crown. So I take this as you will. I mean, there's some people are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so close," and other people are gonna be like, "You're freaking nuts." But whatever. It is what it is. So we came out conquering and to conquer, and like I just feel like that's the USA. That's really the machine. Not necessarily our original constitutional republic, but that's for sure what we have been doing for the last 50 years while this machine has sort of taken over what is our government. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come," and out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from earth, so that people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword. So this is where I would say I look at it as China, and the great sword being nuclear weapons. Um,
Yeah, that could also be that the fact that Biden just gave all the nuclear power back to Iran,
yeah,
but that could
yeah,
also be
that's
that
true
the
too.
Iran and China could be one country under the guise of a red horse.
Or just
The Middle East
the whole idea
the
of
whole
the
idea.
oppressive mindset having the power,
Right.
I
There you go.
guess.
A mindset. I think somebody told me that maybe it was on the chat that the mark of the beast could be like a mind and a mindset and a deeds type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's more of a theological standpoint instead of a physical entity.
Yeah, and I think
But
a lot of that is how
I think we're all
we
trying to
should be reading the Bible as a whole.
right.
Like the literal references at the time period, even the people who were seeing these prophecies
hmm
didn't know what the world was going to look like.
Right.
So I think looking at it as sort of like that mindset theological type of way is good. When he opened the third seal, I heard the living creature say, "Come," and I looked, and behold, a black horse. Its rider had a pair of scales, so scales being basically how they weighed gold or money in this time, had a pair of scales in his hand, and I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine." Basically, we're talking about trading. We're talking about
Barter
money
or
and
barter.
bartering and, yeah, controlling of the bartering by the black horse. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come," and look, and behold, a pale horse. Its rider's name was Death, and sword in a fan. Oh, whoops, sorry. And Hades followed him, and they were given authority over the fourth of the earth to kill with sword and famine, and with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth.
Yeah, that song "Behold the Pale Horse."
Yeah. So then we have look at this one world order, sort of that we're this idea that we're going to move into the socialism, and sort of like the fact that they have controlled the livestock and just the power of controlling of the people. So it says they were given authority over 1/4 of the earth. So if you look at 1/4 of the earth, to me, that's about the amount of people that are in one of these controlled nations. If you look at the United Nations, Great Britain, America, China,
four major population
and that's
controllers.
not the entire world because we have all these third world countries, that Brazil and Peru, but they don't really care about that
Right.
because those people aren't making as big of an impact, I guess, in my eyes. So, and not to mention, they can't force those people into famine because they know how to live on their own. Like they've been surviving anyways.
Well, as long as the sun doesn't get blacked out
Yeah,
and,
right.
and those portions of the earth, but
But those of us that require
they're supposed to be.
Walmart and Myers,
Yeah, right.
the authority is
Screwed.
going to give them the
Mhm.
ability to push us into famine.
Right.
In addition, uh, let's
We're
see.
in the fourth or fifth seal right now. We're in the fourth.
Yeah, so when he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the witness they had been born. They cried out with a loud voice, "O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on earth?" Then they were each given a white robe and told to rest a little longer until the number of their fellow servants and brothers should be complete, who were to be killed as they themselves had been. So this one I don't have as much of a direct correlation for because it's kind of hard. It's basically like they're saying that the dead are there and we recognize the dead more, but that
The dead is
they have to wait longer. Like basically they're saying that more of us are going to die, in my opinion. It's he's saying wait because your brothers are coming with you.
in the.
But just like that we haven't forgot
So I
about
think
you, I
that's where
guess.
people get the idea of a mid-tribulation rapture.
Yeah, and that to me is what sort of like I felt like the Holocaust screams
Mm.
that section heavy. And I can't really speak for say like the white robes, but that amount of death that we experienced in the Holocaust, we remembered heavy. and the whole world looked at those dead, and they remembered, but we couldn't fix it at
They're
that
trying to
time.
erase that shit too.
Yeah.
They're trying to say that never happened.
But at that time, though, I just mean
Yeah.
like we were with those people. In addition, I guess there's another version would be like 9/11, where these awful things happened and those people are very freshly in our minds, but we know, and God is sort of saying, well, we can't you can't have your oops we can't have your judgment yet. Like, just hang on a little bit longer. It's all going to be fixed. But those of you in pain and suffering, that have died, just wait a minute, basically. In the as far as them crying out, I just, like, I don't know. I just think it's referencing, like you
It could.
said,
I mean, it could
these
also be
mini.
like dead in spirit too, or dead in like. So.
We also could be not to that yet too. That's
Right.
the one seal I'm kind of iffy on.
Well, the pale horse being that like there's that corporation that can control all the food and like that's in place,
Hmm.
and so we're kind of going into the fifth or about to open the fifth,
Yeah,
or
we're
in
like
some respect
teetering on
there.
that. Yeah,
So there's like potentially 3 or 2.5 to go. Like yeah, we're teetering on like the action of the pale
because
horse.
the sixth is where things get crazy. As when he opens the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to earth, as the fig tree shed its winter fruit when shaken by a gale. The sky vanished like a scroll that is being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Then the kings of the earth, and the great ones, and the generals, and the rich and powerful, and everyone, slave and free, hid themselves in the caves among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of the wrath has come. Who can stand? So at this point, we're talking the Lamb, Jesus, is returning. People are hiding because they don't want to even view the face of God. And now we're talking about that event, that nuclear war, the asteroid falling. And the main reason that this has taken so much meaning for me is my wife has told me that several nights in a row she has had this dream of this earthquake, and every single time she falls underneath all this rock and this stone with our son, and she can't escape it. And every single time the earthquake comes, she remembers it and knows that she's going to fall back under the rock and tries to shield our son and hide as the earthquake sort of crumbles things. So, for me, somebody who has been studying this deeply, and now to see that
Your
this,
wife is actually getting visions.
yeah, not just one time, but the same exact dream several
I
times
don't have
over.
I don't have visions like that, but my wife has said that she had a dream that she was in biblical times and she basically went into the street and everyone was saying this guy was coming and this guy is bad and this guy has all these horses or something like this, and she went up and prayed in the spirit, or Christians call tongues, which is a spiritual gift that you get if you ask. And she was revealed that that person was actually Jesus coming, and everyone said that he's evil. So Jesus is going to be seen as the evil one, where people seeing evil as good and good as evil,
Oh,
and so that was like another correlation to the end times and the vision that somebody's gotten. And you know what? You guys probably had some weird dreams too. God is going to pour out his power and his knowledge to all people in the end times. So if you get a dream that you don't want to tell anybody, then hold on to that and write it down. Like if you don't want to tell anybody, that's on you. But that's kind of a warning right now. People are gonna have visions. People are gonna be seeing dreams in their and dreams in visions, and old men will have dreams or visions, and young men will dream dreams, and that's happening. Like for me, that's happening real time.
yeah.
So hold on to that, write it down, tell somebody that would even, I guess, not care or give a rip. But I think that we are in that time right now. But I'd like to know some people's dreams because that's prophetic right now for me. And so that's my piece of it.
Yeah, I think. and I don't know that all of that is coming now and with this
No,
crisis in the government, but as far as
but it's
being to that
awakening.
point,
Yeah,
I think we may be to that point. It may be another several hundred years. I'm not
yeah.
sure, but things are things have made the steps, and to say
Hmm.
that we are in anything other than chaos as far as like the state of the world goes is pretty rough, and I just don't I don't really see it. I was trying to find. It was funny because you said that she said that Jesus was sort of like scary, and I was trying to find the verse where it describes Jesus.
Jesus will come as a lion and not as a lamb like he did the first. But maybe that's not quite the one.
Oh, it's so much worse than that. I'll
Yeah,
find it in a
and then
second.
he might come on a horse and having a sword too. Not sure exactly which one that could be. But his job is to basically judge those who've had come against the will of God. You want to tell me what the key words are or something? And
Well, he comes and look up just the eyes like fire,
oh,
because basically Jesus comes and it says that his eyes are red and burning like fire, and he's wearing a robe dipped in blood and carrying a sword, and it says he will rule with an iron rod. Um, but the way they describe Jesus when he comes to basically the final war with Satan, he's not doesn't sound like somebody very approachable.
yeah.
It sort of sounds like it describes like you would just want to hide and sort of wait till that's over.
Revelations 1:14. You can read that from there, or it might be different.
Is it
I think
114?
it is. Blazing fire, white as hair, white as snow. It could be 114 through 18, or some goes past that maybe. But yeah, if the vision or dream my wife had was anything like that, then I can see why a lot of people would say he's an evil guy or he's scary.
I don't think that's it either.
114. Did I say 114 or did I say
114, but I didn't see it.
1-4?
You can read it if you want, if you have it.
It's the hair on his head was white as like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like blazing fire.
Yeah, that one.
And to go on, you might have to read past that unless I want to Google.
It's 114.
Yep. Revelation
No,
12
it
through
doesn't go on to say it there.
12 through 16 unfolds what John saw when he turned after hearing a loud voice commanded him. The speaker stood in the midst of the seven golden lampstands. He was wearing a long robe and golden sash around his chest. His hair was white. His eyes resembled a blazing fire. His feet were like bronze. When he spoke, his voice sounded like the roar of many waters.
Oh, here we go. I found it. It's actually Revelations 19:11.
Okay.
So the rider on the white horse. So this is
Okay.
basically the true white horse, not the
Yeah.
antichrist, not the false prophet. It says, "Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True. In his righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes are like flame of fire, and his head are many diadems, as he has a name written on that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and the name by which he is called is the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on his white horse. From his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike down nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread on the winepress of fury of the wrath of God Almighty. On his robe, on his thigh, he has a name written, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. So, I mean, basically, he's dripping with blood. His eyes are on fire, and he rips a giant sword from his mouth that they are going to use to crush nations. Is
Yeah,
how.
the sword is supposed to be the word of God, but which is what you're using everything right now. And
it's
so yeah, in a natural standpoint, I guess that would be the outcome.
it goes on. I mean, the end of the verse after he's done capturing the beast, it says, "And the rest were slain by the sword that came from his mouth, from the mouth of him who was sitting on the horse, and all the birds gorged with their flesh."
Mm. Hmm.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's pretty brutal stuff.
Right. Right.
And the funniest part about it is that we are all looking towards this, which I heard read somewhere else somebody say, even though it's so dark, Revelations is still a story of hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Did you get into the seventh, or was that the sixth, or was that?
the seventh is basically it's God coming down.
Yeah.
The seventh
Okay.
is when the war begins. The seventh is when he comes down and sort of defeats Satan, and then we we get through this giant war and see heaven on earth and so on and so forth. But at this point, we're waiting for that fifth, where we either see the dead or perhaps that was already done, as we were saying. But we'll know the fifth when the sixth comes because the earthquake, the shaking.
Right.
So at this point, I think we're waiting for, I guess, not waiting. I mean, not that I'm really wishing that, but I think the next step is going to be some sort of natural disaster or nuclear war or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
For
Well,
the
it was. I think it was a good idea to go through that because it's the signs that are converging
yeah,
with everything, and if we've already, I mean, so if Revelations is it all true, and we've already gone through four seals,
running out of time too.
basically, then just keep your eyes open on that.
And it
And
all sort of associates back to the fact that the idea of this whole Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Freemasons were like the obviously the stonemasons who helped build the pyramids, and then from there, sort of this offshoot that's written as conspiracy. The Illuminati formed from them, and they're the holders of the secrets of this apocalypse. Like
mhm,
basically, where the idea is that the people who built the pyramids they knew, and they recorded it in hieroglyphs because that was the only language that functioned then because God made the Tower of Babel and made them all different languages, so they couldn't record it in any language. So they recorded it in pictures. And these Freemasons, which happen to have this big, massive building on the White House lawn that they're now is encased in the fence, and they're sort of holding these secrets, and they've been passing them down for generations and generations, and now we have this all-seeing eye that is a part of their symbol on our dollar bill, and
mhm,
all these conspiracy movies relating it to the Vatican and how the Vatican's helping hold these secrets. And then we have the layout of Washington D.C. being similar to the sign of the Freemasons, and this Washington Monument that looks similar to a pyramid. And I mean, from there you can sort of just delve into a whole slew of very confusing, deep information. And to say that it doesn't have relevance, I think, is ignorance. But to say that we have any idea what it is also ignorant. So I think it's one of those things where we just sort of need to, if you're curious, I guess, uh, investigate, and if not, be aware that what's happening and what you see on television is not probably the end all be all. We've been fighting holy wars since people were created. So
yeah,
to think that it just suddenly stopped and we're not fighting holy wars anymore and none of this ancient history means anything, it's all junk, and all that really matters is racism and sexual equality, you're retarded. That's all I
yeah.
have to say about all that.
Well, this is the a new hope type of title, I guess we're gonna put on it. We're calling it the new hope because this is not the end.
No,
We're waiting for culmination and be
like,
on the right side of history, I guess is what I would say.
yeah,
Seek out for yourself what the truth is, and there is a truth.
just live your life moralistically, I guess,
Yeah,
is how I feel and how I'm sort of trying to be. I think getting wrapped up in the ideas of human perversions and uh, not even necessarily perversions, I guess, like just getting wrapped up in things that don't really matter.
yeah, yeah,
Remember what's really important in the world because you may be judged by it soon.
yeah. And I think that your life will judge you anyways through all the the crap that you put into your life, and it's gonna bring you down either way. So it's just the uh, the what comes out of a sinful life, I guess you call it. It says
Yeah.
you be brought down in countenance, and you'll be brought down. And anyways, this has been on the fence with
Albert,
Kelly.
see you guys.